Thank you.
Awesome. Well, do you want to introduce? Or
Yeah. Thanks everybody for coming out today. This is a workshop going to look at some advanced strategies for applications and CVs. URSA is working with the USRAs this year again. So if that's something you're interested in applying for, those are the undergraduate student summer work awards from the tri-agencies. So NSERC awards, SHIRK awards, CIHR awards. So those are opportunities to work with faculty through the summer, and you'll need a supervisor for that. So this is a great workshop to help you sort of get prepared for talking to faculty members and getting prepared, but for so much more. So for any of those career-oriented things, for lots of good use for this type of thing. So Brett Christoph has offered to lead this session for us today, so I'm going to hand it over to her, and she's from Career Services, so I'm just going to sit back and let you take it.
Yeah. And as per my style, if there's any comments or questions during this presentation, please chime in. You as well, Jordan.
Yeah, thanks.
To give some context and make it more engaging for you folks. So thank you for being here today. Those that are in person, please grab some snacks. If you're not in person, sorry, virtual snacks. But yeah, so I'm Brett Christoph. I work as a professional skills coordinator for the Office of Career Services, and I'm the Future Skills Innovation Lead. So basically what that is an initiative to develop transferable skills in university. So these are skills that would be applicable in research, in education, and all sorts of jobs, even in your school, right? So helping you succeed in your schooling so that you can succeed in your career. And you're here likely today because you're interested in research, whether that's just for an experience next summer, or maybe to find out if it's something you want to do for your job, right? So we're here to help you. And as Jordan mentioned, there'll be a lot of kind of crossover between this applying for USRA applications, but also grad studies, awards, scholarships, just general jobs. So we're going to cover quite a bit today. As always, I'd just like to take a minute to acknowledge the land that we're here today on. Really like to take a moment to contextualize what we're learning today with our land acknowledgement. And so for me, a land acknowledgement is an active, reflective activity, right? So we're thinking about the past, we're thinking about our privileges and our responsibilities for co-creating a future where all of us can thrive and do our best work together. And so really just taking a moment to recognize the land we're on, the history that comes with it, and then the responsibilities that we have to co-create a world together that's maybe a little bit better than the past. Let's hope. So yeah, we're going to talk a lot about reflection today. So really rooting that in our land acknowledgement as well. Yeah, thank you. So we're going to go through a few things today. Like I said, we're going to talk about CV versus a resume and why you might want to have both and what can be in both. We're going to talk a lot about telling your story. So that's, again, that reflective activity that really makes, whether it's a presentation, an application, a job interview, that's what really, draws people in and makes an impact. It's the story you tell. That's why we have a storytelling competition for undergraduate research, right? And you'll notice a lot in your coursework, a lot of these reflections that are storytelling. Oh yeah, I thought it was a ghost. It's just you. There's a real value in storytelling, right? Because it tells us why. It also tells us how and what might we do in the future as well, right? So we're going to talk about how to identify and articulate your skills and competencies. And then we're going to do a little bit of practice and kind of review kind of my tips. So I have a little icebreaker. I always love an icebreaker. And so this will be more for the folks in the room. At home, you guys can still think through the activity. You just won't have anybody to share it with. I do really want you to share with each other that in our room, because a part of building your resume and cover letter and experience is being able to talk to people, being able to talk to strangers. It's scary. And the more we do it, the more comfortable we get with it. I understand there's also a networking event coming up in a week or two. And so we'll talk through some kind of strategies for talking to strangers, telling your story, you know, and getting comfortable with that. So we're gonna practice a little bit of that today. So for this activity, and folks at home, please think about this as well. I want to know what you like to do for fun, what your hobbies are, what your interests are. Oh, the slide is stuck and isn't moving ahead. Somebody online. Is it better now? Can you see it?
No, it is stuck, not in full screen. Just,
Oh, I see. No, no.
it isn't full screen on their end.
And I'm messing around with it. I can see myself with this tripping out. Thanks for that. Sorry, just 1 second. Oh, I see. I have nothing to hide. You can stop for that. Sorry, guys. Okay, so those in the room, thinking about what you like to do for fun. If you don't have a lot of time for fun, that's okay, but if you did have time for fun, what is it you would like to do? Reading, walking, biking, swimming, traveling, all of these different things. And then I want you to think about what you think that says about who you are, your strengths, your skills, your interests, your values. Okay, and then I'll get you to think about that for a second and then share with a neighbor. I'll go first so you know what this looks like. So I really like to, I think it's 2 or 3 slides forward. Still moving, oh, weird. That's good. Uh-oh. Okay, anyways, technical difficulties. So I really like to garden. That's one of my favorite activities during the summer. And the reasons why I like to garden is not because I'm really good at it, but because it forces me to do some things that I don't normally get to do in my daily life. So it makes me slow down. It's working with my hands, where typically I'm working on a computer at my job. You have to be very patient. It's a slow burn, right? It's not something you do and have an immediate result, right? You got to plan. There's a lot of thinking, a lot of care, and you often get what you give, right? You put a lot into your garden and you get a lot out at harvest, right? It's slow, kind of meditative, working with my hands. Those are the things I like. And I guess the reason why I like that is because it's not typically my style or my skill set. And so it kind of forces me to practice skills that I don't normally have an opportunity to practice with. It also really reinforces my value of, thanks Jordan, of putting effort in, and then, you know, how much you put in is what you get back of it. So that's kind of a value that I think my gardening teaches me. So yeah, think for a second, turn to your small group of 3 or over there. You can talk in a group of 2 or 4 over there, but just share with your neighbor what it is you like to do for fun and what you think that says about you, your interests, your values, your skills. I won't do too long, just a couple minutes here. So we're random circle. Yeah. You like to do fun, Jordan?
I'm an outdoors guy. Yeah, so we've got some land by Shell Lake and
Yes.
off-grid kind of thing, and we just go and disconnect. Yep, yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, how about you?
Yeah, I love that type of stuff too. I'm actually going, we have a cabin for New Year's Eve. A couple of friends and I are just going out in the woods in Alberta. Yeah, looking forward to that. Yeah. Anything that's kind of the opposite of what we
Well, that's it,
do
right?
today,
I
right?
know. Yeah.
how to get that balance,
I know,
right?
it's
Yeah.
that, and then I work on like old machines, like old bikes and old cars and stuff, because again, it's just the exact opposite of what I do.
Technology, the modern.
Yeah, and just desk sitting and whatever, right? Like thinking, lots of thinking and
Yeah.
whatever, right? It's like, no, not a lot of thinking, just look at
Yeah,
the
just
manual,
doing-
just that part goes there,
Yeah.
that part, there's no one answer.
Yeah, fiddling around,
Yeah.
yeah, cool, no, I love it.
Yeah.
I've been getting into coloring lately, just to like keep that.
I like to
be slow down.
Next week's reading week, so
Just do
maybe
something
your-
do something
fun.
I enjoy, so. Story. Well, I'm Hallie, and I get called a little bit. In my free time, I like to cook or bake. I'm not so at it, but I just like to try until I eventually make it visible and it tastes good. I just like to, just practice with that. Do something to my hands. Yeah.
In the chat, if you wanna type your answer and what you think that says about you, that'd be great, then we can kind of reflect on that, I'm gonna ask for some examples, so.
It's a really good. So like you did distinction versus like personalized. It's so hard to do. Yeah, like this, and I think this is push to bring up so much effort and probably needs to take over something like that. And I think that makes it kind of like, okay, that's taking my time to do stuff. You just have this specific time that I want to do this. All these signs. That's the one. It's like, no, you don't like to do that anymore too. Yeah, that's the best stuff. And taking time. I did another. Yeah. See, it's all gonna be other B-side. What I'm talking about. I'm in biomed. Oh, cool. Just a second.
Did everybody get a chance to share? Are you guys still sharing, or did everybody get a chance? Everybody got a chance?
Yeah.
Everybody got a chance? Awesome, cool. Is there someone that would like to share with the rest of the group? I don't know what was said, but they said you had a really good answer.
I guess if you. So for me, I like to do photography and dancing in my free time.
Yeah.
So what I basically said for my values and strengths was that it helps me, to keep a distinction between my personal life and work life.
Mhm.
So, just having those two things to do on its own and you have a specific time for yourself makes you feel like you're free.
Yeah.
You don't have to think about all of the different multiple things that you have to do, and constant stress is not there anymore, so
Yeah.
it really helps you ground yourself, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's great. That's what Jordan and I kind of were saying, is that like, he said he likes to just go out and be outside, off grid, no phones, no television, as kind of disconnected as you can be, to kind of recharge, right? Because we're so connected, have so many to-do lists, so many demands and expectations, things to hand in on time, hopefully, right? So to find something that brings kind of the opposite of that is really important, right? It actually allows us to kind of recharge, feel creative, feel energized again, so that we can actually do our work more, right? Like we can put our effort in, right? Fill up our cup so that we can kind of do something else, right? And switch between our responsibilities and then something we like to do for fun. Anyone else have an activity they like to share? Share. Someone said cooking. Yeah. But you said you might not be good at it.
Yeah, some things turn out better than others, but I just like working with my hands and just working to perfect it, and like the whole practice makes perfect. And
Yeah, and so something I like cooking too, and I find that there's a bit of experimentation there, right? So you said, trying something out, see how it works, see how you might be able to do it differently next time. Those are really good skills and qualities for life, right? Like being like, okay, we're gonna try this. Also, usually sharing it with others, right? Or giving it to somebody, or cooking. I love to cook for other people, right? So it just kind of brings people together. Again, really shows a lot about our values and our interests. So thank you for, is there anything online that we want to share, or
Let's see.
so they feel included?
Yeah, there was a good one.
Okay.
So Shay, actually. Shay says, I hope you don't mind him. offering your answer up, but you put it online, so I guess you're okay with it. I like to create, draw, bead, play ukulele. I think it's because I really value creative expression as a unique and personal way of communicating and representing yourself.
Cool. That's awesome. I love just learning about what other people like to do. And it's reading week next week. So my challenge for you would be to try to find some time to do something fun next week that fills your cup. Whether it's, just baking cookies or just drawing a picture or dancing or just going outside for a walk, right? We can actually get better studying done, better writing done, better work when we also take some time to recharge. So don't forget to do that next week during the meeting. So there was also some purpose to this activity as well, because a really big part of submitting an application for an opportunity is knowing yourself, right? So knowing your strengths, your skills, knowing your education, your qualifications and experience, and then your values, right? So in the USRA applications, as well as any job application, you're trying to align your values, your skill set with what the opportunity is, right? So trying to find that alignment, and it takes a lot of reflection on ourselves, but then also the opportunity, right? So take some time to really think about your strengths, your skills, your experience, your education, other qualifications, and your values. And we can talk a little bit about it, because often I meet with students, they're like, well, I don't have any experience, I'm just a student, right? Well, okay, so you write a research paper. What are all the skills that go into writing a research paper, right? They're usually a lot more complex than just cooking, right? Or just, right, like just cooking. Well, it's reading directions, being creative, following instructions, not being scared of mistakes, right? Being mindful of the time that you have to cook something, right? So there's usually a lot of complexity going into something that we tend to just think is, not being that complex. So when you're considering opportunities, thinking about these things are really important to find that alignment. You also want to know the opportunity, right? So this goes for the USRA applications as well as any kind of job opportunity. You really want to know what the opportunity is all about. So typically there are keywords in the job posting or application. And so you want to go through those carefully to kind of highlight the key terminology of what is being asked of you as an applicant, and what the company is looking for. Usually there's a section that's like, well, ideal candidate, right? And like there has must have, sometimes there's nice to have, right? So it's nice to have a PhD, but it's not mandatory, right? Those types of things. And so being able to figure out, it's kind of like a puzzle, right? Being able to figure out what it is, who they're looking for, and how you and your experience can reflect that in your application and your document. Doing a little background research on the company or organization or opportunity goes a long way. So when we're talking about undergraduate research, right, kind of looking at the context of undergraduate research here at USask, talking to somebody like Jordan who coordinates undergraduate research, talking to peers who have also done undergraduate research as well to learn a little bit about their experience. And you can leverage your connections online through something like LinkedIn, if you have LinkedIn. If you don't, I would encourage you to consider getting it. I'm not a huge proponent of social media, but it is a really great tool, even as a student, to start connecting with, your peers, your professors, your people, research, folks here at the university that you might, end up working with. And the algorithm works to connect you with different networks, right? So if you connect with Jordan and I, then you'll be recommended to kind of our connections as well. So it's a really kind of low effort tool that can have a big impact, right? And then companies and opportunities will search you up to see if you're a real person. And if you have a really nice polished LinkedIn, that's going to make you look more professional and also verify that you are a person and not a robot, which is a concern we have to think about these days. So knowing yourself and knowing the opportunity to find alignment so you can tell that story a little bit better, right? Yeah, so the job description will often kind of describe the ideal candidate, so kind of think about how you can reflect that in your own documents. I think we'll talk about that a little bit more. I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about your personal brand, which kind of relates to LinkedIn and having an online presence, but also for networking. So again, there's a networking event coming up in a few weeks where you might be able to find a research supervisor or mentor, right? And so having a fast pitch is a really helpful way of getting who you are across, making an impact in a really short period of time. So sometimes we call this an elevator pitch, right? So it's meant to be 30 seconds, all the good information, right? So your first name, so FAST is an acronym. It stands for first. So first name, a wave, a handshake, a smile, right? Hi, my name's Brett Christoph, academics. My graduate studies is in religion and culture studies. And I look at critical discourse in social media and contemporary politics. Right, so you would switch that with your academics. So I'm a second year student in biology. I'm really interested in microbiology or whatever specific area. If you don't know, right, kind of more general, then that's fine. And then strengths and interests, right? What are you there? What are you here to learn about? I'm really interested. I just did this kind of talk for another group, and the student was a computer science student and really interested. Oh, and the president of the USAS robotics club. So those were his strengths and interests, right? So I'm really interested in robotics. I lead the student robotics club here at USAS. And I'm here today to just learn about different opportunities on campus, or I'm here to find a research supervisor, here to just learn and expand my network, right? You can kind of fill in the gaps, paying attention to your context, right? So if you're at a research event, making sure your information is kind of research focused, right? If you're at just more of an informal kind of social gathering with lots of people from different backgrounds, then you would, kind of modify your response to fit that context. But you do want it to be authentic to you, right? So you really want to think about who you are, your interests, and how you can adapt that to different contexts, right? So usually I like to usually I like to get students to actually write this down, because practicing is really important for kind of like a muscle memory. So anybody that plays a musical instrument or dances, you know that the more you practice something, the more you can just kind of do it without thinking, right? It kind of becomes like second nature. So same with this, right? So if you don't practice this and somebody says, oh, what's your name? And you just go, I don't know, right? But if you practice this, you won't feel so uncomfortable sharing that information, okay? I'm trying to see where I have it. I think we have time. No, maybe I'll skip it. I'll skip it. You guys are off the hook today. But do really think about this. Please write it down if you can, or practice with your neighbor, or next time you're at an opportunity, just try it, see how it fits. But really writing it down or practicing it, verbally, that'll really help it kind of become second nature to you. Any questions there? Those would be helpful for LinkedIn, right? You could put your LinkedIn bio as your fast pitch, right? It'll be really helpful at a networking event to introduce yourself quickly. Maybe just introducing yourself to your professors, right? It's a really good way to, develop relationships on campus. And really essentially any opportunity on campus could be a potential networking opportunity, right? So now you've come to this event, I already know some of you here, right? And so next time I see you, I'll be more familiar with you, right? That's how you start to grow your network, by participating and showing up. And so kind of think about any opportunity on campus as a potential networking opportunity. And in that sense, putting your best self forward to make a big impact. And these relationships, sometimes they take time, right? So don't expect an immediate, don't go to the networking event expecting a job offer, right? It's probably not going to happen. But go in there with intentions of learning something, making a new connection. And if those are your two goals, you're probably going to leave satisfied, right? Because you're probably going to learn something, you're probably going to meet someone, right? So putting yourself out there to kind of be successful for those goals. Okay, so now we're going to switch gears a little bit. Now we're going to get into a little bit more technical. Does anybody know what the difference is between a resume and a CV? It's on my next slide, that's why I'm not switching it. So that would give it away. Anyone want to take a stab at it? You know what a resume is? What's a resume?
something that highlights your work experience or just your experience in general?
Yep. Yeah. And so a CV is the same thing, but typically used more for research teaching in the university context. Yeah. Pretty good, problem solving. Yeah, so CV, it stands for curriculum vitae, which means course of life, so the course of your life. So this is your whole life. So it's usually more pages, so resume is usually 2 pages, we don't even say 3 pages anymore, 2 pages of your actual experience and skills, and then the last page for references. Just as a tip, try to avoid that references available upon request, just include them if you can, that just saves a step for everyone involved. But your CV, on the other hand, is multiple pages. My graduate supervisor, I think his was 45 pages, something insane. You know, a lot of publications. But that is because you can include your publications, conferences you've attended, research awards and grants, you know, memberships, committee involvements, professional associations. I'm a chair of a couple committees, right? So I include that in my CV, whereas I don't include that stuff in my resume unless it is explicitly relevant to an opportunity I might be applying for, right? So the way I like to think about it is your curriculum vitae is the much bigger, more fulsome story of your life and your skills and your schooling and experience. Whereas the resume is much more tailored to the specific application or opportunity that you're applying for. And it's typically more for jobs in industry, right? Whereas a CV is more for research and academic opportunities. So your CV at this page is probably not gonna be 45 pages long, and that's okay. But I like to use my CV as kind of my database, and then when there is an opportunity, I go in and I copy the specific opportunities for my resume. So it's a little bit shorter, more specific to the context of the opportunity. And then I have just kind of a long running list of everything I've been involved in. Trust me, the more things you do, the easier it is to forget to add something to your CV or your resume. So do try to make like a habit of it by adding it and updating it. There's nothing worse than seeing a really cool opportunity and then needing to spend 6 hours updating your job search documents and the deadline's tomorrow and you don't have time to update, right? So keep yourself, you know, your documents fresh and up to date. Of course, always kind of customizing them and tailoring them to the job opportunity. Not just sending off the same one for every opportunity, right? That's pretty easy. As somebody who looks at resumes often, it's pretty easy to see when somebody's just taken a standard resume or cover letter and just plugged it into a different opportunity, and there's no connection to the job posting or the application process.
Someone online is asking, does it have to be career specific
For curriculum vitae or resume?
for CV?
For CV? No. Maybe if you are like, no, I would say, but like it depends, right? Like I have research in my academic discipline, which is religion and culture studies, and then I also have research in teaching and learning, right? So depending on the application, I might choose to highlight the teaching and learning over the religion and culture, right? So yeah, thinking about where there's crossover and what the context is that you're applying for.
They're asking like working in research or working in a store.
Okay, yeah, working in a store does not go on your CV. So your CV is for, here, if I go to the next page, that might actually make more sense. So this is really small, but if you scan that QR code, it'll take you to an online version of this template. And you can see these headings are academic credentials, research interests, teaching experience, professional experience. So that would be as like a coordinator or as undergraduate research coordinator or as a director, right? Whatever it is. Professional internship experience. So if you've been in an internship program, languages that you speak, honors or grants or awards, academic committees or memberships, conference presentations, peer-reviewed publications. So those are kind of the topics and the themes for a CV. where a resume would be more about your skills, your work experience, your volunteer experience, right? So online on our template, you can kind of, this is a great question, by the way, thank you for asking and clarifying. When you download the template, you'll be able to see kind of the difference between the resume and the CV. And just keeping in mind that the CV is typically more for the academic experience, so research and teaching and kind of those related fields on on like a campus or a learning institution.
And I'd say as you're building your CV, like you're not gonna have teaching experience necessarily, or you're not gonna have professional experience that includes, you know, coordinator positions or director positions. But you can alter some of these headings a little bit to say like, you know, research experience, and if you've done a fire course or something like that, that could go under there. Conference presentations might be, you know, research poster presentations, if you've done any poster presentations or things like that. You know, if you've done any, Sure Symposium or the USSU Symposium or something like that and presented your research in some way. All those things could be under those. Yeah, so
Yeah,
as you build your resume up or your CV up, you can sort of alter those to be sort of the things you've done. And I would say even in terms of like you know, co-curricular records. So if you've done the SURE program and you've gotten your co-curricular record from the SURE program, that would be, you know, we could find a place for that, is what I'm saying, right?
yeah, I would say like committees and membership, right? You could say, okay, I'm a member of Peer Health on campus, right? Or I'm a member of another student society, right? It's Indigenous Business Student Society, right? You could put that under finding a topic. So yeah, you might have to tweak your titles a little bit or the headings, subheadings. But there's a way to kind of work in anything that you've been involved in. Conference presentations, or you could just say simply presentations, right? So if you were at the SURE poster presentation this past summer, that's one you could plug in right there under presentations. If you're published in the undergraduate research journal or something like that, right, you could plug it into publications there. If you received any awards or bursaries or grants or something, right, you can put that under awards and grants. Yeah, any certifications as well, if you've done any training, different co-curricular training, right?
Yeah, or if you've done the ethics
Yeah,
program
ethics.
from the tri-agency, tri-agencies have a like an online ethics thing you can go through and just do that training, and then you're certified as that, and you could put that on here, right? Like that would be something you could do literally in an afternoon, is just go through that training and get that certification on your CV, right? Something to add.
Yeah, especially for a research application
Yeah.
or CV, that would look really nice. You're probably gonna have to do it anyways.
Yeah, you're gonna have to do it at some point.
But get it out of the way, right? And then add it to your experience, right? Yeah. Any questions there? Those are really good clarification. Appreciate that. Here's just an example then of a resume, which you're probably more familiar with. Right, so you have your information at the top, then you have your academic credentials. Oh, this is the same. This is just, oh. It's just zoomed in. Okay, this is the same CV. It's supposed to be a resume, but you get the idea. I won't try and confuse you. But that also is to say, if you have any questions about CV, at the end of my presentation is our QR code for career services. You can meet one-on-one with one of our career coaches and have them review your documents, your job search documents, whether that's your CV or your resume. They can give you tips. You need to have something to go in. Don't just have a blank page and ask them to do it for you, right? Have it something done, and then they can give you feedback. So that's something that you'll have lots of time to do, you know, in the next month or so to prepare for this opportunity. So thinking about kind of what we're gonna be talking about in our applications is you wanna highlight kind of the knowledge that you have, the skills you have, and your attributes, right? So we call these the USAS student competencies. And so alongside your coursework, what you're learning in the classroom, we also want you to be able to speak to these 6 kind of domains or competencies. And it's, you know, it's not enough to just have your piece of paper that says you have a degree in whatever it is, right? You need to have some experience in these areas, right? So you can kind of relate to and talk about your skills and experience for job opportunities. And you'll see in applications such like as USRA, there'll be mentions of community impact, right? How you nurture those successful relationships, how you engage in our intercultural society, and you know, are engaged in the community and well-being. Um, Leveraging different technology, right? So being ethical and adaptable with the technology that we use to improve our efficiency, but not over relying on it, knowing when there's limits of technology, right? Backtracking a little bit, nurturing successful relationships is collaboration, it's leadership skills, it's networking, right? So all things that you'll be participating in the next kind of coming up little month or two. And then of course, engaging in intercultural society, right? We all bring a different culture and a different background with us. And so being able to celebrate diversity, see the value of diverse perspectives in collaboration, and having that self-awareness of, you know, cultural differences, and being open to experiencing them, and sharing your own and learning from other folks as well. Communicating meaningfully, this, is such a narrow topic or narrow title for such a broad topic, right? So communicating meaningfully means, you know, communicating science research in, you know, to a group of grade 4 students, right? Can you also talk to your professors and follow along with their kind of upper layer terminology and words, right? So can you switch depending on what the audience needs? Is your written communication strong as well as your presentation skills, right? So there's a lot of different elements and sides to how we communicate, and different techniques and resources that we can draw upon and develop. Giving and receiving feedback, you know, especially in research when things don't go the way we want it to, rather than just, you know, getting angry and storming out, right? How do you try again? How do you articulate? You know, I was talking to a student who did undergraduate research, and there's a lot of expensive equipment in the lab that they were working in, right? And something didn't go right, right? So can you communicate that? Rather than just, you know, keep it a secret and pretend it didn't happen, right? Which is only gonna affect your professional relationships and your work environment like that, right? And sometimes, you know, challenging things happen when we're working with others, right? So being able to navigate those challenging conversations as well. Adaptive design and problem solving is another really important competency, and that's, you know, because things don't always go the way we plan them to. So kind of anticipating that a curveball is gonna come, right? Being able to adapt quickly, kind of knowing something's gonna happen, even though we don't know what it is. But you know, preparing to be adaptable and a quick problem solver. And again, you know, when we think about failure as an opportunity to problem solve and learn, then something that doesn't go the way we had planned it doesn't actually, you know, feel or look like a failure. It actually becomes a learning opportunity. So when we can think about being adaptable problem solvers, when we make a mistake, it's not as devastating, right? It's just a learning opportunity. So it helps us kind of grow through it. And then cultivating well-being, right? I don't know about you, but when I'm not well, when I'm stressed, when I'm tired, I'm hungry, I'm not that good at problem solving or communicating. Technology doesn't work for me, you know, throwing my phone or, you know, the apps don't work. My relationships suffer, right? It's harder for me to do my best work. So ultimately, you know, taking care of myself, so that you can contribute to your community as well, right? So this is community well-being for ourselves, but then also for our community where we find ourselves. As researchers, you're likely researching something that's contributing to an aspect of well-being in the world, whether it's through, you know, cancer research, whether it's through technology, developing an app that will be used for some sort of, you know, make people's lives better. That's related to well-being, right? So we really do, this is the center or the pillar of all of our other work that we do. And as I said before, right, doing something fun to take care of yourself, to help your own well-being, so that these other things we have to do are easier to do and we have more energy to do them. I'll share this as well, although I know you guys won't be able to see it. But that QR code will take you to a version of this, and this is a researcher skill development framework. And so I share this with you because these are research skills that maybe you might want to refresh and think about the terminology being used here so that you can reflect it in your job search documents. But essentially, what's important is like, this is level 1 to level 7. This is supervisor instigated, so this means you're working with a supervisor. So you guys are somewhere here, right? And maybe all over the map, depending on the skill, right? But this is for probably undergraduate or graduate students that are being supervised. Okay, this is for researchers. This is researcher instigated, and this is discipline leading. So these are folks, like, do you know Dr. Stephen Ryan? He's here. Right? He's really shaping the trends of his discipline, right? He's a mathematician and physicist, right? So really kind of contributing to the culture of mathematics and physics in his field. He's trained at Oxford, so he's really smart and really well established, right? So he's been doing this for a long time. So don't think you can get to purple without, 10 years of experience under your belt, right? Also give yourself some grace, right? Like that you don't have to be in the purple zone yet, right? You're still an undergraduate or graduate student that's doing supervised research. And so I bring this to your attention because there's probably terminology and language here that might be helpful for your applications. Maybe skills you didn't realize that you had or that you are practicing right now and can kind of become more aware of and more intentional of in the way that you practice them. But also just to show you how deep research skills go, right? So even though you do a really great job in your summer internship research, right? Next summer, there's another opportunity that's going to hopefully challenge you even more and challenge your skills, and even skills maybe you thought you were really, really confident in become, challenged in a new opportunity. That's how we grow, right? So don't get scared when you feel, oh, I don't know if I can do this, right? That's a learning opportunity for you to step into and slowly kind of, over time, get into one of these kind of deeper purple, blue, green areas.
I'd say those facets of research that are on the far left of the graphic there, those are great things to sort of look at and sort of start to think about where you are in each of those areas. Like where would I like to actually get more training or get some more some more experience, right? So organizing and managing data, right? Like maybe that's something that I don't have a lot of experience in. Maybe that's something that I can look for a workshop in. Again, sure, offers workshops on those types of things. The library has a data management workshop that they do as well. Those kinds of things. Maybe it's communicating and applying that research, right? Maybe it's talking about that research and trying to write it into a paper or create a poster with it or those kinds of things. So yeah, it's just, I really like those facets of research because when you're talking about your skills, like the competencies that Brett just showed, and you're talking about those competencies, we want to talk about them in relation to like some of these facets of research when you're talking to researchers, right? So you can be saying, I am competent in, finding and generating information, using appropriate methodologies, right? Like that's something I can do. I'm strong in it. Here's an example, those kind of things. So, but it's just, it gives you a little bit of language. It gives you a little bit of like structure, like hang some of what you're talking about on, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, and likely these are things you do have experience in, right? You've probably organized and managed information for a research paper.
Yeah.
Right? You've probably evaluated and reflected on some research or some information. I don't know if you can read that. It says metacognitively reflect on processes used, right? Reflective skills, right? Find and generate information or use data through an appropriate methodology, right? These are things that you're starting to have practice in. And as Jordan mentioned, giving you the terminology and also finding maybe where there's gaps and where you can fill those gaps with another workshop, volunteer experience, learning opportunity, that type of thing. I can also share these slides with you if you want to go through them a little bit. I realize we only have like 15 minutes left and a couple more slides, so take some time to look at this. Another really important part for writing or talking about your skills and experience are using accomplishment statements to do that. So oftentimes in resumes and cover letters, we have what we call just duty statements, where you're simply stating your responsibilities or duties for the position, right? So was a shift supervisor at McDonald's. That doesn't really tell you what happened as a shift supervisor, just as a statement, right? So what we want to do is use this little formula to highlight your skills, experience, and achievements. This is usually for written like communications, but also once you start to be familiar of it, it can just be the way you talk, right? So you take an action verb, right? So you can Google action verbs, find one that's relevant and one that you're familiar with, right? That you're not going to forget to use in your interview. But something like maintained or organized, right? And then you're gonna add the skills, right? So what were the actual skills that you were practicing in that context? So the where, the when, the how. So maintain positive collaborative relationships with internal and external stakeholders to effectively coordinate a 2-day conference on environmental engineering. That's so much better than coordinated a conference. Right, I have some examples, we'll see through this, right? So other tips would be use active voice in the present tense. That's really tricky. So rather than maintained positive relationships, it's maintain. Right, so even though you did the thing in the past, you can still use active voice in the present tense. Again, it's just more powerful language, right? It's active and present. Very subtle difference, right? But it just helps to kind of, again, underscore the your action in this learning process or in this experience. And then quantify whenever possible, right? So a 2-day conference on environmental engineering or a 2-day conference with 150 people in attendance, right? That helps you to visualize what this event was and the extent and effort that went into planning and coordinating it, right? So even organize staff schedules and manage production capacity for 50 employers at McDonald's. Again, 50 employees, that's quite a few, right? So again, helps to visualize, helps to contextualize, and that can be percentages, money, numbers, anything to kind of quantify and give an example. Right, so people reading your resume don't know what the experience looks like. So you're trying your best to kind of visually, communicate your experience to them. Couple examples. Example 1, involved in the development of new product features. Yay or nay? I see a head shake, I had a head shake. Yeah. So here's another example. Drove the ideation, development, and successful implementation. So those are the verbs. Innovative product features, resulting in a 50% increase in customer satisfaction. Again, it's hard because these are made up examples, right? So if you can get more specific and more quantifiable, then the better that's gonna be for your experience, right? So really trying to, okay, so I was involved in developing new products. Okay, tell us a little bit more, right? How many products? What was the process of that, right? Try to get a little bit more from your experience, while also keeping it as a sentence, right? Not a paragraph. So it's a fine balance between enough details, but keeping it succinct. Another example, participated in the planning of company events. Could be better, hey? What would we say? What do I have here? Collaborate with key stakeholders, coordinate and execute company events for 100 to 200 people while fostering team morale, strengthening company culture and community engagement. Yeah,
Do you have any thoughts on, like, if it becomes too wordy, it almost seems like ChatGPT, you know?
sure.
That's like something I'm trying to avoid. And I think like the second example, which is a good example, like the collaborate with key stakeholders.
Yeah. So if you can make it more specific, then do that, right? This is just a very general example, and that's a good point. You want it to be, so if I were to say this in my context, I would say collaborate with staff, students, and employers of the USass community to coordinate and execute a 2-day conference with 100 people in attendance. To increase, right? Like giving some more specific context to your example so that it doesn't, because ChatGPT doesn't know your experience, right? So if you can get really specific with how you frame this. But the purpose is when we go back to this formula, is to have an action verb that shows and demonstrates what you are doing. So the maintaining or the organizing, collaborating, coordinating, the skills. So the skills here are relationships, coordination. Right?
Yeah.
Second one is, this is the verb organize. The skills are, well, the skills would be organizing in this context too, right? In this example, right? And then the where, how is that quantified experience, right?
So somebody online's asking if we have like a research example. So I mean, we could come up with one right now, right? So I mean, if you were so say you had done some research assistant position over the summer, and you got to think about what it was that you were actively doing as in your research position. So if you were out in the field, or if you were in the lab, or if you were just collect our tagging articles for a literature review or something like that. I mean, so you got to think about what it is. So what was it you were doing? What's the action verb you were doing in that instance, right? So identifying and collecting data samples, the skills would be using particular methods, using this software, using these methods, using these tools of the trade, whatever the discipline is, right? In order to collect data for this type of research project, which contributed to, whatever. So again, it's really just a matter of like this, it's really about this formula that works really well.
Yeah.
And it just sort of gives you that tool to sort of say, okay, like what was it I was really doing? What were the skills I needed to be able to do it? And what was the contribution that it made, right? Like that's really what we're getting to.
Because if you just say, I was involved in the development of new product features, that doesn't mean anything, right? What does that mean? How are you involved?
Yeah.
What are the new product features? What was the development process like, right? There's no detail, right? So adding some, okay, so I contributed to the ideation, development, and implementation, sorry, of innovative product features. I would even get more specific with that, right? Again, these are examples, so they are intentionally vague. So you'll have to think a little bit about your specific experience. But as Jordan mentioned, breaking it down into that formula so that we really have a good description of the skills and then the context of that experience, quantifying it when possible, and then showing kind of the qualities you gain from that. These are good questions though. I'll definitely add, I'll think through some research examples. It's always good to have relevant examples. So we're just wrapping up, but this one might be a good example too. So 4 R's of preparation. So these are the same R's I say for applying for jobs in graduate school, right? So research the company, position, or opportunity, right? Go to the website, do a little research on who the funders are, learn about the history of NSHRC, in Canada, right? Highlight key terminology, again, because you want to be able to reflect and mirror some of that, right? So that could be the mirroring that goes on in your skill statements. Sorry. Reflect and take inventory of your skills and abilities. So it kind of set you up for that at the beginning, thinking about your values, your interests, your strengths. But then you can also use a T chart, which is my next slide, to see where there are gaps. And again, where you might want to fill in those gaps. We'll talk a little bit about more of the T chart exercise. Read and revise your resume, cover letter, and applications, and be prepared to use a variety of examples that connect your qualifications to the job, right? So not just using ChatGPT, so that you can actually talk about your experience with a person, right? And then review, this one's specific for job interviews, but review common job interview questions and your job search documents. So just revisiting the application portal, reviewing your documents, kind of, thinking through different questions that maybe you would ask a research supervisor, right, as you're going in and trying to find one, to support you if you haven't yet. So again, there's these 4 Rs really kind of will help you kind of across the board, no matter what kind of opportunity you're aiming for, whether that is research or a job or graduate school, right? These are going to help you. You have lots of time right now to prepare for these applications. So start thinking about some of this, now.
Yeah, and again, if you were at the How Do I Talk to a Professor About a Research Position workshop that we did, which is available as a recording if you want to see that one. Again, these are overlapping skills, right? So do that research, find out who the professor is, what their research is, read a paper or two of theirs, right? And be able to sort of comment on it a little bit, that kind of thing. So yeah, same kind of overlap.
Reflection and research might be really important skills.
Yeah.
The thing here. So this is like inventory activity. So this is a great way to kind of find different gaps in your own experience, but then also kind of do that reflection for what the job opportunity is looking for versus what experience you have. So this is an example from a workshop I gave a couple weeks ago with Masters in Public Policy. So it is really specific to them. But same idea goes, right? So in a job posting, there's often, or an opportunity posting, graduate studies, scholarships, right? There's gonna be some language about the ideal candidate, right? What they're looking for. So it's often found in the posting or application portal. So for example, they're looking for a senior policy analyst, for government of Saskatchewan, minimum 5 years experience, excellent written and oral communication, experience with working with Indigenous communities. So that's who they're looking for. Obviously, that's a summary and a made up job. Although I did look at real jobs to get inspiration. So that's where you go in and you go, okay, what are my related strengths, skills, and experience? So for these students, they were Masters of Public Administration students, but they didn't have the 5 years of experience. Okay, so this is their dream job. This is an aspiration. They do have a short internship with the city of Saskatoon. They have some conference presentations and research papers. And they specifically did a research project on healthcare access in Indigenous communities in Saskatchewan. So again, we're looking for some similarities there, right? We can also see that there are some gaps. So, what are some ways we can bridge that gap? What's an alternative role or stepping stone to get you to that ideal senior policy analysis, right? You start as a junior policy analysis, or you work as an assistant to a policy analysis, right? So you kind of are building your experience. Nobody's gonna get their dream job right out of the out of the shop, right? Like it takes time. You need experience and opportunities. If you do, congratulations. It's very rare to get your dream job. I think Jordan and I are still, always on the hunt to find a dream job.
I'm there. No, I'm there.
Jordan's got it. Okay. I'm pretty close too. I do love my job, but right, like you're, as you grow and your values change, right? You're, want to try different things, right? And you'll be kind of growing and changing positions or changing roles. And so you can kind of do this kind of activity at any point in your career. So, things that this person could do is find more research and conference opportunities, find a mentor, right? So if you're really interested in a specific area of research or a specific field or discipline, finding somebody who's already established in there, again, doing that little background research to learn more about that. Then you can also do what's called a career informational interview. And that's where you're asking somebody, for 20 minutes of their time, hi, I'm really interested in your research area. I saw your publications XYZ, what would you have 15-20 minutes to share to have a conversation? I'd love to know more about it. I did this really informally without knowing I was doing it when I was an undergrad student because I was just curious in what my professors were studying and researching. And so I just asked them, what are you researching? Like, what's your research area? Most researchers really love to talk about their research. So, they'll want to talk to you about it, and that's how you build relationships and rapport, right? But then you can also say, like, how did you get into this role? And usually it's not as straightforward as we tend to think it is, right? So that's how you can kind of gain some career insight as to somebody who's in that role. And most people want to give back, right? Because we were helped at some point in our career. And so it feels really good to pay it forward by helping somebody else, right? Same thing with mentorship. We have a mentorship program at USaska. One of my former mentors is actually here, mentees, Ramus. And so mentorship is a really good opportunity to learn a little bit about, again, somebody's background, somebody's, career development, give you some insight, help you out, things you might not have known, kind of like a job shadow, right? So you can kind of learn about what the job looks like, and see if it's a good fit for you. Right, and then finding other opportunities, right? So you feel like maybe your written and oral communication could use some work. So you go to some writing workshops at the library, or you do a public speaking seminar, or join Toastmasters or something, right, to build your skills and experience. So for your purposes, right, the ideal candidate, or the, application for undergraduate research assistant awards, you're looking for the criteria, you're putting in your related strengths, skills, and experience. And then maybe that's enough, maybe there's great alignment, but maybe you also find some ways that you can continue to build your skills and experience, kind of bridge that gap. Yeah, does that make sense? Any questions? I think we're at time, yeah, 4:01. So I'll stick around here for a little bit, happy to talk, but as I mentioned before, my colleagues, that are coaches, would be happy to meet with you and talk through your job search documents. If you're, not sure about your major or, your career, right, we're happy to talk to you at any point. We're a service for current students and alumni. We actually just had an alumni who graduated from geology in 2012. And mining is not doing so great right now, so she's wanting to pivot out of mining into a different sector. And so she came and met with our coaches to talk through some different strategies and things she might do to change up her career. So we're here with you to support you in your career journey. We have career fairs and other events on campus, which are great opportunities to meet employers and connect you with different possibilities and opportunities for yourself. I think that's all I have.
Amazing.
Any questions or any things you want to clarify? Jordan has some timelines. I think December would.
Yeah, so if you're specifically looking to apply for USRAs this year, I would say the first thing you want to be doing right now is looking for that supervisor, because you will need to be paired up with a supervisor in order to apply. So these are great skills to be sort of getting ready for that. We have a speed networking event on the 19th, where you can hear a bunch of faculty members just quickly talking about this, kind of like a speed dating event. They'll each be talking about their research and what kind of stuff they've got going on and what they're looking for. All of those faculty members are looking for undergraduate people to partner with next summer. They are coming because they want to hire you. So a really good event to go to and meet some faculty and just hear what kind of research is happening on campus and how you might be involved. You might even be surprised. It might not even be in your discipline, but it matches your skills and it gets you there one way or the other. So that's on the 19th. I put a link to the upcoming workshops in the chat here of the Zoom, but I can share it around I think it was in the email as well that we sent out about this. So that's a really good event to come to, even if you're not ready yet to be talking to professors or whatever. It's just a good one to come and listen to then and just be involved and just start to network with some people. But now is the time to be emailing professors, getting that set up. December 2nd, we will launch the USRAs. So that's when you will be able to start applying for USRAs with your supervisor. The deadline for those is January 31st. So Christmas is in between there, so it's less time than you think to actually get the proposal together and do it all. And then you would find out about that at the end of March, and then you would start your summer position May, and it goes May to August for the summer positions usually. So yeah, so it's all coming up. There will be other workshops as well about the USRAs and just what they are and the application process and all that kind of stuff. So you can be following along for those workshops as well. So we hope to see you at those. Other than that, you can just email me at undergraduate.research at USask if you have any questions or you just want to chat about something or you need clarity on any of this stuff. Always happy to talk.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time. I know it's a
That's
busy
good.
season. Take care and have some fun next week.
Yeah.
If you can. And yeah, there's folks here that are here to help you and want to help you. So, thanks for showing up and, yeah.
Yeah.
Take care. Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. But that was yours. That's just not mine. Yeah, if you wanted to share those, more than happy, although I don't.